Hi everyone, my name is Mark, and today we are going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Angela Craig was poisoned and declared brain dead on March 18, 2023. The culprit? Her own husband, James. The Craig family lived a seemingly average life. The couple had 6 kids, and the family did face financial trouble despite living in $1 million home that was all paid off. But things took a much darker turn for them on March 6, 2023, and all of it started with a protein shake. Denver, one of the most highly populated cities in Colorado, is known for its suburbs. But who knew that it would be in these suburbs where the life of a seemingly normal and ordinary family would take a dark turn? March 18, 2023 marked the death of Angela Craig, a loving and caring mother of 6. Her sudden illness and all the symptoms she had experienced took the doctors by surprise. Soon after her death, James Craig, her husband, got caught up in a series of lies as the sinister plan he developed for Angela's murder was revealed. As the case progressed, Angela's family was taken aback as they were exposed to one horror after another in what they thought was normal life. Angela Craig was pronounced brain dead at 4:29 p.m. The reason for her death at the time remained unknown, given that she was perfectly healthy before suffering from the illness. Her condition got to a point where her organs began shutting down. Doctors at the time were mystified. How could the medical condition of some who were perfectly healthy and going on trips to see family members deteriorate to the point where it would cause their death? Aurora is an eastern suburb located just 25 minutes outside of Denver. The region is known for its outdoor activities, schools, and overall ambiance. Within that town lived a family of 8, James and Angela Craig and their 6 children named Tolliver, Mira, Belle, Violet, Nora, and Cleo. James and Angela got married in 1999. At the time, they were 20 and 21, madly in love, and wanted to start a family together. Both of them were originally from Dodge City, Kansas, and had moved to Denver, Colorado after James had finished dental school and teaching at UMKC in 2006. In Denver, James started practicing at Summerbrook Dental, and Angela would help out at the facility when needed. Summerbrook Dental soon became the best option in the region. Apart from dentistry, the Craigs were known to be active members of the LDS and Mormon Church. At the church, Angela took on many roles, including being a teacher, a choir director, a youth organization leader, and a family history consultant. Out of all these roles, her favorite was being a family history consultant, as it involved helping families figure out their history and perform temple ordinances on his behalf. All 6 of their children were raised and baptized in the church, and they participated in all the activities. Everything seems to be going pretty well in their lives, doesn't it? In 2019, James made around $800,000, and the family lived in $1 million paid-off home. But wait till you hear this. The same year, he took a $675,000 and a $242,000 loan against his house. Despite his income, the family did face financial difficulties. He had taken out these loans to fix things, but the opposite happened. He ended up owing $315,000 to the IRS, had $200,000 in credit card debt, and over $750,000 in other types of debt, which included some bad investments in cryptocurrencies. The following year, his total debt amounted to $2.2 million, and he had to file for bankruptcy. In 2022, Summerbrook Dental began experiencing financial difficulties of its own and wasn't keen on keeping him on board. He realized that he would have to file for bankruptcy again. However, it was at that time that his dental school friend Ryan stepped in. Ryan acquired Summerbrook Dental, and the two officially became business partners. Both Ryan and James and their families had always been best friends, but in 2022, James began to confide in Ryan more than ever before. On the morning of March 6, 2023, both James and Angela got up early to work out, and each had a protein shake. Later in the morning, James received a text message from Angela, who wasn't feeling well. In the text, she'd asked him if he had added extra vitamins to her protein shake, as she was feeling dizzy. To this, James responded that he'd added in a full scoop of caffeine and 1 big scoop of B vitamins, and that he was feeling a bit shaky too. However, Angela told him that she only takes 1 small scoop of the B vitamins. As the two continued to talk, Angela told James that she felt as if she had been drugged. The response James sent to this message will make you think about whether the Craig family was actually living a normal life or not. His response to the text was, "Given our history, I know that must be triggering. Just for the record, I didn't drug you. I am super worried though. You looked really pale before I left, like in your lips even." This is quite an unusual thing to say, but we'll get into it later on in the video. On March 6th, Angela was eventually admitted to the Parker Adventist Hospital as the symptoms were not going away. Despite numerous tests, medical professionals at the hospital could not identify the cause of her condition, and she was sent home the same day. On the morning of March 7th, James told Angela that he would take the day off from the dental clinic since she wasn't feeling well. Angela, however, aware of the family's financial situation, told James that he should go to work instead and that everything would be okay. Both of them continued to communicate via text throughout the entire day. She told him that it was probably just sickness and that she planned on reaching out to her primary care doctor. During the day, she also sent him a text that read, "I'm kind of wondering if maybe I had a sinus infection, and I didn't really even notice because I got so used to them, and it turned into an inner ear infection, and that's why it felt like it came on all of a sudden." As the two of them continued to talk, Angela told James that earlier in the day she had passed out in the kitchen, and that the only thing she remembered about the incident was their daughter Violet screaming. After hearing this, James told her that she should call 911, but she refused. At that time, James talked to a person named Matt and discussed Angie's condition with him. According to Matt, the symptoms she was experiencing lined up with diabetes. He recommended that Angie should call a new primary doctor, mentioning that she's a new diabetic and that she needs to be seen sooner rather than later. However, Angie called her own doctor to make an appointment. She even texted James, telling him not to use those words and that he told Matt to stick it. Angela then scheduled an appointment for Friday, March 10th, but later moved to Thursday so that she could be seen earlier. Both of them spent the night of the 7th watching TV and snuggling, hoping for a better tomorrow. A day after passing out in the kitchen, Angela started to feel better on March 8th, but was still unaware of the devious plan her husband had set in motion. The improvements she experienced on March 8th were short-lived. The following day, she began to feel cold, tired, shaky, weak, and dizzy. On March 9th, a family friend brought over a glucometer to the house, and Angie was measuring in at 179. The readings, however, dropped to 140 later during the day. She later ended up being admitted to the hospital as her symptoms wouldn't subside. After hearing about this, James texted Angie, "Man, baby, you've got to stop scaring me like this. I love you so much, and I'm not used to all of this excitement." Was he trying to joke around and lighten the mood to make Angie feel better, or was this response pure sarcasm coming from the fact that his plan was working? We'll learn more about this as the story unfolds. During that day, both Angie and James continued to text about different things like church, the kids, and other family affairs. Over the next 5 days, doctors conducted several different tests to determine the cause of Angie's condition. Most of the issues she was experiencing appeared to be related to blood pressure and vomiting. During that time, family members and friends pitched in, helped out with the kids, brought meals, and were there for Angie when needed. James also begins to have frequent conversations with Ryan's wife, Michelle, who has a PhD in nursing and was also working as a professor. She was also trying to figure out the answer to what was happening to Angie. However, she was also unaware of the plan that James had initiated. On March 10th, James told Michelle that not having any answers was becoming pretty rough. He also mentioned that one of the main problems Angie was experiencing was her blood pressure, which at the time was 100/60, and prior to that was 56/44. He also mentioned that the doctors would keep her for one more night. During the conversation, he emphasized that his main concern was how Angie must be feeling. But given what we know about his plans, this was probably just an attempt to gain sympathy. Over the next few days, James had shown tremendous care towards Angie and the kids, and did everything he had to get the family through the rough time. One of the times when he visited the hospital, he even told Angie that he was sorry for not bringing any flowers. However, all of this could have just been a part of his master plan, as it would have helped avoid suspicion when he'd actually succeeded with his motives. Angela would stay admitted at the hospital until March 14th. After doctors were unable to determine what caused her condition, she was sent home with an oxygen tank with instructions to use it full time. When she got back home, she texted James jokingly and said that he'd married an old lady who was now in an oxygen tank. When Angie got back, the children and everyone else hoped this would be the end of the trauma. The Craig family still didn't have a diagnosis about what had happened, but Angie was doing better. She felt stable and wasn't vomiting. However, all of this turned out to be false hope, as her improvements were short-lived. On the morning of March 15th at around 11 a.m., Angie's brother rushed her to the University of Colorado Hospital's emergency room. At this point, everyone was desperate for answers, but no one was aware of the horrendous act James had committed to cause all of this. He arrived at the hospital soon after Angela had been admitted. She complained of a severe headache and dizziness. A few hours later, at around 2 p.m., Angela had a seizure and her condition began to decline. Doctors at the University of Colorado had failed to incubate her, and she was suffering from intracranial pressure, which essentially means that there was an issue with the blood flow to her brain. In addition, her pupils were also unresponsive. Given her condition, she was moved to the intensive care unit, ICU, and doctors stated that her condition was dire. As all of this was going on, James texted Michelle 2 pictures of Angie and told her that Angie's condition had gotten quite worse. Her blood pressure was 55/44, and SOP2 was 84. He also told her that the doctors had stated Angie should have been mentally responsive by then, but she wasn't. After hearing this, both Michelle and Ryan rushed to the hospital to offer support, but James, at that time, was unaware that this text would lead to him being exposed. On his way to the University of Colorado Hospital, Ryan got a call from the office manager at Summerbrook Dental, Jacqueline. She told Ryan that James had come back to the office on March 6th after hours. Ryan was informed that another employee, Caitlin, had seen James using a computer in exam room 9, and the lights were turned off. It seems like a regular office thing at first, right? But James had no reason to be using that computer, since he had one in his own office and used to frequently bring his own laptop to Summerbrook Dental. After leaving the office that day, James texted Caitlin that he would be receiving a personal package at the office and that she was not to open it. The package arrived at the office on March 13th and was opened by another employee who was unaware of it being a personal item. Inside was a foil square with a biohazard warning and a slip labeled potassium cyanide. The employee resealed the package and handed it over to James. When Caitlin heard about Angie's condition, she became suspicious and talked to Jacqueline. The reasons for suspicion? Well, you see, she had previously experienced symptoms of ingesting potassium cyanide, and her symptoms included nausea, low blood pressure, and vomiting. It was pretty much the same thing Angie had been experiencing ever since she took that protein shake. At the time, she recalled James telling her that Angie had accused him of poisoning her when she was sick, and that James had even said that there are poisons hospitals don't even test for. She also remembered that James had told Angie he wanted a divorce. It's worth mentioning here that both James and Angela were having relationship problems, most of which were because of James. He had been addicted to porn since his teenage years, had gambling issues, and was exposed to several affairs. Both Ryan and Michelle arrived at the hospital separately and talked to James for a short while. Ryan went over to one of the nurses and told her everything he had just learned from Jacqueline on the phone, including the fact that he suspected Angie had been poisoned by her husband. Afterward, both Ryan and Michelle stayed with James as he spoke to the doctors about Angie's prognosis and dealt with emotions of what they were telling him. Although both Ryan and Michelle had arrived at the hospital separately, they went to one of their cars together. While in the car, Ryan received a phone call from James. He wanted to know if Ryan had talked to anyone at the hospital. On the call, he admitted to sharing information about the package. James argued that the package contained a ring for Angela, but Ryan, who knew the truth, claimed that the package in fact did not contain a ring. James questioned his claims by saying that he couldn't have known what was in the package since it had never been opened. However, Ryan told him that the package had been opened and then asked him why he had ordered potassium cyanide. At this point, James came up with a new story. He told Ryan that he had ordered the potassium cyanide because Angie had asked him to, since she didn't have the right credentials to place an order. However, he had never thought Angie would actually end up using it. Ryan, who had a pretty clear idea of what had happened, told James to stop talking and get a lawyer. The nurse that Ryan had talked to was a mandated reporter and had informed the police, which triggered an investigation. Police arrived at the hospital just after midnight on March 16th. By that time, Angela was in a coma, and doctors were not sure whether she'd make it through the night. After talking with the hospital staff, detectives learned that there had been no change in Angie's condition. These spoke to Ryan and Michelle, whose stories matched up. In addition, they also asked Caitlin to come to the Aurora police station and make a statement. Given that James and Angie had minor children, a CPS investigation was also triggered. During the investigation, the kids were given time to go and see Angie. However, she had made no progress by that time, so it was basically a time to say goodbye. The kids were initially allowed to say goodbye at 6:45 p.m. However, due to the ongoing investigation, they had to wait until 10 p.m. Angela was pronounced brain dead on March 18th at 4:29 p.m., and James was the one who opted to pull the plug. James was eager to not have an autopsy performed on Angela's body and wanted a cremation as soon as possible. The investigation, however, had begun before she was pronounced brain dead. The investigation revealed that Angela had 3 different substances in her blood: potassium cyanide, arsenic, and tetrahydrolazine. Given this, her death was declared a homicide, and James Craig was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The police investigation started on March 16th. They were able to get search warrants for his home, dental office, and devices. Some of the items seized from his residence included a computer tablet, a water bottle on an exercise bike, multiple types of powdered protein, and 2 unlabeled plastic bags containing a white powdery substance. The police interviewed James and his children individually, and a Child Protective Services (CPS) worker contacted them as well. The worker stated that James had told them that Angela had considered suicide and that he had revived her after several suicide attempts. James also mentioned he asked Angela for a divorce in December 2022 and her depression got worse after. The caseworker was compelled to report James mentioning Angela overdosing on opioids and that her toxicology reports would have something unusual in them. The children, however, didn't report anything similar. The oldest one was aged 20, and it's very unlikely that Angela's depression and suicide attempts would have gone unnoticed. In addition, James never sought any medical or psychiatric help for Angie. One of the messages retrieved from his device was sent to Ryan. In the message, James mentioned that he was unhappy that Ryan got the authorities involved, and that if he really cared for him, he would not speak to the police unless forced to do so. The message read, "I understand why you did what you did. I do. I get it. But if you had come to me personally, man to man, instead of talking to everyone else about what you thought you knew, I might have let you in on some details that would have made you less likely to cause this horrible storm. If you had only put me higher on your list of priorities instead of putting everyone else's opinions and gossip ahead of me. For that, I am very, very mad at you." The police had also retrieved text message conversations between the couple. In those conversations, James had asked Angela not to talk to her sister about what the couple was experiencing. This conversation happened on March 1st when Angie was visiting Utah. After contacting Angie's sister, Toni, police uncovered that James had drugged Angela 5 or 6 years ago. He claimed that the reason for this was to keep Angela from stopping him as he gave himself a fatal injection. However, no evidence of James committing suicide was found. The police later talked to the office manager at Summerbrook Dental, who told them the entire story about Exam Room 9 and the personal package. The police examined the search history and hard drive of the computer in Exam Room 9. In it, they found a Gmail account belonging to James and different search queries, such as, "How many grams of pure arsenic will kill a human? Is arsenic detectable in autopsy? Undetectable poisons that show no signs of foul play." The police also found that the same Gmail account was used to order arsenic metal from Amazon. The same account was also used to order Sigma 207810-25G, aka potassium cyanide. In addition, police also discovered personal communication records between James and another woman. Both of them had started dating and conversed about going through a lengthy divorce. The woman also took 2 flights to Colorado. The woman was an orthodontist who had met James at a conference where he had told her that he was already living separately from his wife. Since Angela's murder, she has cooperated with the police investigations. She mentioned that their relationship wasn't serious. She had mentioned that both of them hadn't started talking about a future together, and that she wouldn't have dated him had she known he was still married and living with his wife. This woman told the police all of this to explain that she could not have been the motive behind Angela's murder. Experts believe that the protein shakes Angie had consumed were poisoned and that she was given minor doses prior to receiving a fatal one. As of now, James has not entered a plea. He has been assigned a public defender, and his trial is scheduled to begin on August 8, 2024. The motive behind the murder? James is $2.2 million in debt, and Angela has 3 life insurance policies, with James being the beneficiary of each. Could it be money? An affair? We'll have to wait for the trial to find out for sure.